You're listening to Soundside. I'm Libby Denkman. It's time for Front Page, where I sit down with another journalist to talk about the biggest news developing right now and how it affects the Pacific Northwest. Well, today's guest, you're going to hear her on KUOW's daily podcast, Seattle Now, but you also just heard her on a newscast because, of course, it's Paige Browning.
I'm back.
I mean, just to set the scene for listeners, Paige was a couple doors down in our anchoring studio in the news booth, giving that lovely news update. And now, boom, she just runs right over and she's here. I mean, is there anything you can't do?
I'm fueled up on the fireworks. I'm fueled up on the hot dogs and watermelon and ready to talk news, Libby.
Yeah, well, we are so lucky to have you here. Paige, quickly, we are following here at KUOW the news of Microsoft laying off 4,800 people, including 600 here in Washington state. We'll be talking especially about this tomorrow on Soundside. Specifically the overhaul of the Xbox division, where a big chunk of those layoffs are coming from. We're planning on having a games industry expert on the show tomorrow to break down exactly what's going on and why the whole video game space has been so volatile lately. Alex Halverson at the Seattle Times does point out that, Microsoft's footprint isn't shrinking here in our state right now. Microsoft has hired about 3,600 employees in Redmond over the past year. But it just kind of speaks, as you were talking about in the newscast page, to the increasing change that AI is bringing to all kinds of tech companies, right?
Yeah, and I haven't read much about it in the gaming industry yet. So hearing about it in this gaming zone, which is a zone that Seattle, Bellevue, Redmond have a stronghold on. We have
huge footprint.
We have a lot of those jobs in this industry. So to see this as one of the first really visible ones to fall is going to be something that people in the gaming industry for sure are watching.
Yeah, definitely. Let's turn to our first story on Front Page. Meanwhile,
June was the first time we've seen a month of June without any homicide-related deaths in over 50 years.
That's Seattle Police Chief Sean Barnes talking to KUOW TV recently. I think it's easy to report when things are bad, when bad things are going down, when trends are going in the wrong direction. So I think that we should also take a moment to talk about the fact that there's been a lot of good news in the crime space, in the law enforcement space. Seattle just recorded its first full month of no homicides in 9 years, and the first June with no homicides in 56 years. That is a big deal because crime usually goes up in the summer months. So once it starts to warm up, crime numbers start to trend upwards.
I mean, that's amazing to me that it's been since 1970 that we had a June with no homicides.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a huge landmark. This is, I should say, part of a nationwide trend. I mean, crime is falling across the country from the pandemic peak. And of course, Paige, you're going to see these conversations going on. Like the chief of police is citing a lot of different policies that the department has pursued. The King County Prosecutor's Office is arguing that there are policies that they pursued that are, improving things. But others will say these are societal trends. These are trends having to do with, again, something like an epic global pandemic disrupting everything, school and et cetera.
We saw crime rates increase after that.
Exactly. And when societal trends are getting better, then, things are going to improve. So I wonder what you think about what's been going on.
I mean, this is the million-dollar question. Why did we have no homicides in June? If I'm the city or the police department, I'm holding a news conference celebrating this. I'm bringing out, here are all the great things our city did. We're starting to see the police chief do that, Sean Barnes. And it sounds like Barnes and County Prosecutor Lisa Mannion, they have an explanation. This is what they think. I'm going to call it the 3 Ps: police, PowerPoints, and partnerships. So Sean Barnes is saying, look, we've hired more officers. That's helping. They're both saying we have new crime analysis and data. That's sort of the PowerPoints. We're tracking trends. And then Lisa Mannion in particular is saying we're doing many more partnerships. So with schools, with community groups. One I find interesting is the school partnership. Mannion's office, the prosecutor's office, helped develop school safety plans in the city and the county. And part of it is to transition kids who have criminal records back into school. But another part of it is to track students' attendance, because they found that most of the youth involved in gun violence have attendance issues.
Yeah,
that they're
truancy
missing school.
issues.
Exactly. There's a truancy issue, and then at some point they're involved in gun violence. So her office is part of an initiative in the schools to keep kids coming to class. So we don't know which any one of these, or if it's all of them together helping reduce gun violence, or at least homicides, but we had a June homicide free.
Yeah. To KUOW, Barnes said, there were including partnerships with violence interrupters, all kinds of community involvement in why this has gotten better. Violence interrupters, schools, the superintendent, as you mentioned, the school partnerships with the King County Prosecutor's Office. 72% clearance rate for homicides right now, which is higher than the national average, which is pretty good. And Barnes also talked about the CCTV camera footage, which he linked to that higher clearance rate. Now, I haven't seen the full connection explained here yet, but we've talked to, the police department before about how they're using the CCTV camera footage to get more evidence in order to, have more suspects, have more charges filed, that they can send that evidence to the prosecutor's office. Now, that's really political right now because people are really concerned about the expansion of those CCTV cameras if they're worried about, privacy issues, walking down the street and not being
a surveillance
recorded.
state.
Exactly. That is all getting audited. Like the mayor and the city are looking into that. The idea of what kind of law enforcement outcomes are going to come from that CCTV camera footage. But I do think it's interesting that Barnes is linking it to this lowered crime rate.
Yeah.
Again, I want to see more evidence of exactly what that connection is.
And what I've heard public officials, policing officials say is why this matters is why it matters to have fewer homicides, aside from the fact that more people are safe, is it lets detectives focus on the ones that need solving.
Yeah.
So, we still don't know who killed Amar Murphy Payne outside Garfield High School 2 years ago. So investigations like that. But yeah, as you've said, these clearings, the ones that have been investigated and in some way brought to justice, it's 70 to 80%.
72%.
Like
yeah. Which is, again, higher than the national average.
But I'll also say, we did go homicide free for the month of June. That's just a set of dates on the calendar. On Friday, which was July 3rd, we had homicide in the Lake City neighborhood. So just a few days later. So how much does the calendar matter? Something I'm also noting, we can't have any news discussion without the World Cup, apparently. I am curious how that has played a role in the reduction of violence, because our city is so alive and so activated. People are out on the streets. People are meeting community, meeting neighbors. We have lots of visitors, lots of police and security out. So I don't have any evidence behind this, but I think seeing an activated city with events and people and joy could have some tamping down effect on the level of violent crime.
Just more presence in the streets, more things to do. And I think that is, all of this, right? You really cannot point to a single set of data to connect to crime going up or down. People have been trying to do that forever. It's really difficult to make that link. But what might be happening is that whole picture. Again, the bigger sociological changes, the individual efforts by different, office holders, and the mood in the city, just having, good vibes might even be part of it. Again, the last time the city went without a month without a homicide was 2017, but a June without a homicide, you have to go back to 1970, which is just truly, truly incredible. Moving to our second story on Front Page.
Boom, 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 even brighter than the moon.
Can you believe that producer Hans was not familiar with this song? When I asked him for it, he was like, "You're going to have to tell me more."
Oh
when
my
I said
God.
Katy Perry's Fireworks, the boom boom part.
Are you telling me she's coming in?
No. Unfortunately, The reason we're playing Katy Perry fireworks is because Seattle's population isn't booming anymore. The state's Office of Financial Management released new population growth numbers last week. They show growth in Seattle and the state of Washington have both slowed down significantly. Many other cities, this is happening, like in Boston, states like Colorado, they're also seeing slower growth. A lot of the sluggish growth can be traced back to President Trump's immigration crackdown, which has slowed the growth overall of the U.S. population significantly. Doug Trump at the Urbanist pulled out this set of data from the OFM report. Last year, Seattle added 18,000 residents, good for a 2.4% growth rate. This year, Seattle's population grew by about 6,800 residents, only 0.8% over 2025, roughly 3 times slower. And Paige, I mean, obviously our identity as a city has so long been defined by this massive growth that Seattle has seen over the past couple of decades. I wonder what you think this means. I mean, even for our identity going forward, if indeed this holds, if this is not just a temporary blip, and we are seeing kind of flattening growth in the city.
Yeah, the boom, boom, boom's over.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, we, just to put a finer point on what you just said, we even literally have had and have a growth and development reporter at KUOW because there is such constant growth of population and everything in our city.
And it causes so many pain points.
And it causes so many pain points. So I think, as I've read into this and researched it more, what I'm reading into this is, okay, immigration for one. You touched on this briefly. In Trump's second term, we have seen immigration crackdowns, and that locally has meant we've lost potential immigrants, we have lost existing immigrants, and we're not having as many kids.
Yep.
As a population in America, but specifically in Seattle, we're not having as many kids, though maybe this team here will change that. And some in you know what I'm talking about, Libby. And locally in Washington State and Seattle, some Republicans are leaving. I know of some of them firsthand, some Republicans who have literally left the state in the last few years. Some are threatening to now because of the millionaire's tax, yada, yada. But it's not just us who are seeing this shrinkage. Well, we're not actually shrinking.
Right.
We're just not growing as fast.
We're not growing like we used to, so it feels like,
it feels
wow,
weird.
Belt tightening.
Belt tightening. We're not growing like a weed. But blue states like California actually shrunk in population in 2025.
Yeah.
We're not doing that. New York broke even. A last thought for now, I'll flip it back to you, is I just wonder if this is bad. We don't need to grow like a weed. You know, we are still growing. We grew, you said, 0.8% in the last year, April to April. A fact is, we do not have enough housing. When we zoom out statewide, Washington's own Department of Commerce says we need 1.1 million new housing units in like the next 18 years. We don't have that. So I sort of take this as evidence that, okay, we need a second to catch up with our own growth. Give us a second to catch our breath, get some of that housing, get some infrastructure. We're still growing.
Yeah.
But we need to catch up with ourselves.
I see what you mean. I mean, I think that there is a big problem. If a city starts to shrink, you start to have less consumer demand. You see less, sales tax receipts. Just your tax base starts to shrink. Your population ages. There's not as many economic opportunities. There's not the jobs that people need when they're, trying to find work here. Like, there are a lot of problems when a city actually shrinks. I can see what you mean in terms of like the growth cooling off a little bit. Maybe it's a breather for a city that has seen just massive, rent and housing cost increases and just the cost of living going wild here. We talked a little bit about this before the show, but, generally right now, red states have been growing faster than blue states.
They are.
Washington State is one of the few exceptions to that as of 2025. We were still in the top 10 of states in terms of growth in the country. Only Delaware, the other blue state that was still on that list, surprising me. One city that is booming right now is Charlotte, North Carolina. And in Charlotte, they are starting to have the same concerns that Seattle has had over the past couple decades. So Axios Charlotte just wrote that a family needs an income of about almost $80,000 in Charlotte to afford the average home. That was in 2020. So 5 years ago, they needed about $80,000 a year to afford the average home. 5 years later, that number is $146,000 in Charlotte. So an 89% increase in just 5 years.
And they're not talking about salaries increasing by that amount.
No,
So,
certainly not.
Holy cow.
So they are really experiencing that growth. Okay, in May in Seattle, the average home buyer needed $219,000 a year to afford the median priced home. So Charlotte's not quite caught up with Seattle in terms of cost of living, but it is certainly, they are feeling the pain. And as you say, Paige, maybe there is like a sense that, okay, perhaps housing starts will catch up. Perhaps we will see a little bit of a balancing here from what we've been experiencing. I just want to put a pin in this because we have a lot to talk about with our next story. And that means it's time for story number 3.
The boys are back in town. The boys are back in town. I said,
In this case, the boys are the U.S. men's national soccer team, and the town that they're back in is Seattle because, of course, we are hosting Belgium versus USA in the World Cup this evening.
I heard something about this.
Yeah, we're just a few hours away, but we have to talk about the monumental sports news that broke on Sunday that impacts today's match in Seattle. That is that U.S. striker Flo Balogun is available to play against Belgium for the round of 16 knockout game. He had his red card issued last week after VAR review of a challenge against a Bosnia-Herzegovina defender. His one-game ban was lifted by FIFA's disciplinary committee after days of lobbying from the United States all the way up to the White House. President Trump called FIFA President Gianni Infantino to talk about the Balogun red card. Paige, you're a fan of the beautiful game. You've been watching the World Cup. So many mixed emotions. What are your thoughts so far?
I mean, what a conflicted moment for USA fans.
Yes.
I think a lot of nations are like, I'm not conflicted. This should not have happened. The call was already made. But for one, I am feeling, first and foremost, VAR, I feel is taking away from the art of this World Cup. It's awful.
It's awful, Paige. I can't stand it.
I would love to have an opposing opinion of you just to keep this conversation more spicy, but I'm with you. I mean, I feel about that. I feel the same with baseball.
Yeah.
Watching these strike zone call outs where you just see a fraction of the ball in the strike zone. I'm like, well, just let the ump do their job.
It doesn't bother me as much with baseball, and I don't know why, but that's for another day. Yeah.
But same thing with tennis, where sometimes the mechanical line judge isn't even accurate.
Yeah.
I think it's taking away from the art of the sport. You know, the
breaks up the whole flow.
It breaks up the flow.
Yeah.
We watched the game. We saw Balogun, do this play where he's up in the air. He's trying to get control of the ball. There's a player. It's aggressive.
Yeah, the
And they
Bosnian
landed a
defender,
foul.
they're both going for the ball.
Yes.
Balogun's foot does land on the defender's ankle in an awkward way, which looks a lot worse when you slow it down
When
the
you
way they
freeze frame
did
it.
for the VAR review. Yes.
Yeah.
Which was problematic and probably against the policy that they're supposed to follow with VAR. So that's
Right.
one of the reasons that the Balogun red card was considered to be a really soft red card, maybe even improperly applied. However, it was applied, right, Paige?
It was applied, and that's what I feel weird about, is now taking it away seemingly on the whim of one nation's president calling FIFA. We don't actually know why FIFA took this, suspended the suspension on Balogun.
They haven't
didn't-
explained.
They have not explained. So the optics of a nation's leader being able to call FIFA and get a call reversed mid-tournament. And I'm not even just talking about Trump. Keir Starmer of the UK called to make sure that the times of the game for the UK were just as he wanted.
Yeah, the Mexico-UK game.
The Mexico-UK game.
They were supposed to move the kickoff up a few hours to avoid a storm, supposedly. Keir Starmer said no, they're trying to probably interfere with England's prep for Mexico City, and he called. He made a call.
He made a call. Libby, it's almost as if you've been watching the World Cup.
I've been watching so much World Cup. It's so bad. Here's the thing. It's a shame because I don't think there was any reason to give a red card in that scenario to Balogun. But
agree.
now that it was issued, having the United States president call FIFA, classically, I mean, let's just say it, highly documented corrupt organization, and appear to have a really cozy relationship with Gianni Infantino. Infantino famously gave President Trump the first ever FIFA Peace Prize, whatever that was supposed to mean.
Yeah.
I mean, typically these types of exchanges involve tens of millions of dollars when FIFA corruption is involved, but it feels wrong. And I don't think Flo Balogun is at fault at all. I don't think the U.S. men's national team is at fault at all. I just am so sad that we're going to see an asterisk now next to this game if Flo Balogun takes the pitch and if he scores.
If he takes the pitch, if he scores, if we win, there's this asterisk. But I just have to say it's such a special moment for Seattle. Not a city seen as a symbol of patriotism. This U.S. men's national team literally had their 4th of July here.
Yep.
They got news about Balogun while on a bus to practice at the University of Washington. And tonight, no Trump or J.D. Vance in sight. They're not coming, apparently, but Seattle's going to be out.
Thousands and thousands of American fans at the best atmosphere for American soccer in the country.
100%.
This has been confirmed by this World Cup, which is a great feeling because Seattle does have the best sports fans in the country. I should note that Belgium had its appeal denied by FIFA. The Royal Belgian Football Association is not going to get its appeal heard by FIFA because FIFA says they're not a party to the proceedings. They don't have standing. But Belgium is expected to appeal to the Court of Arbitration for Sport, which is apparently in Lausanne, France. And it's
in the next 5 hours?
I guess so. That's an ad hoc committee for this World Cup that could rule on Balogun's eligibility before today's match. I actually don't know how they could possibly rule, but they did this for the Olympics. They did really last minute rulings about different eligibilities for the Olympics in very short order. So just about 30 seconds here, Paige.
Yeah, I mean, it's wild to see this all taking place.
Lausanne is in
Seattle.
Switzerland, by the way.
Oh, thank
Sorry
you.
to geographic.
I was trying to think of where that was.
People with better geography than
It's
me.
just putting, I think, unfair pressure on the U.S. team to decide whether to play Balogun. But you know what? Tonight, Seattle's going to be out. I'm going to grab a Seattle dog and a Rainier and enjoy the sport.
Enjoy. Go USA. Just keep your head in the game, Balogun. This isn't about you. It's going to be weird, but you got to focus on the game anyway. And here's a little inspiration.
The boys are back in town. The boys are back in town.
Yes, they are.
Paige Browning is back in town. Thank you so much for doing this, Paige. This is really fun.
Libby. This is great.
Thanks for listening to Soundside. Don't forget you can listen live on KUOW 94.9 Seattle at noon and 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, or anytime right here online at KUOW.org, or of course on your favorite podcast app.